Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to learn about to how to invest in the stock market and what are the basics of the stock market, right? So basically I'm going to write stock market for beginners, right? Stock market for beginners. So tell me, basically what is a market? A market is a place where buyers and sellers meet. So basically a stock market is basically a market where stock buyers and sellers meet. A market where stock market stock market buyers and sellers meet. Market buyers and sellers meet. Right? So so all these stocks that are there in the Indian stock market, they're all listed on an exchange, right? They're all listed on an exchange, right? So, what is an exchange? An exchange basically acts as the place where all the trading of the stocks happens, right? So, in India, there are two major exchanges. One is BSE, the next one is NSE. So, BSE is the oldest stock exchange in Asia, and its full form is Bombay Stock Exchange. And you have NSE, which is National Stock Exchange. Stock Exchange. So each exchange has something called as an index, has something called as an index. Okay. So what is an index? An index is basically a collection of stocks. So it's a collection of stocks, right? And the index of BSE is called as Sensex. I think you might have heard this word. And the index of NSE is called as Nifty, right? So, how many stocks are listed on an exchange? So, if you're going to combine the total stocks listed on the Indian stock market, I think there are some 3,000 stocks. But generally, when people talk about Sensex, they're talking about the top 30 stocks of the Indian stock market. And if you basically would go and look up in Ticketek or in some any other website or what these 30 stocks are, they are stocks such as Reliance, HDFC, TCS, Infosys, Hindustan Unilever, maybe something like Tata Motors, something like Maruti Suzuki. So all the top 30 stocks, right? The top 30 stocks by market cap, right? The top 30 stocks by market cap. Okay, I think it's getting too crowded in here. So basically, let's move on to the next um, new notebook. We're gonna add a section of it, right? So we're going to basically say index and create the notebook, right? So we just created, so not now, okay, right, that's it. So basically you have an index. An index is collection of stocks by market cap. An index is a collection of stock by market cap, collection of stocks by market cap. So, what is the word market cap? So, market cap is basically, you know, that they are, for example, TCS has X shares, right? Let us imagine that the price of one share of TCS is costing Y rupees. So, what is the total market cap of TCS? Market cap is equals to X multiplied by Y. Number of shares multiplied by the share price is nothing called as the market cap. So if you have, so you have all these shares that are traded on the stock market, and if you're going to arrange these shares in their decreasing order of their market cap, you basically are getting a list, right? So these are the top 30 companies in India by market cap. You have Reliance, I think it would be around 7%. You have HDFC around some 6%, right? So an index consists of, so Sensex basically contains all these stocks, and the proportion of each stock in that portfolio is basically the proportion of the stock inside the index. So HDFC amount to 6% of the index. That means 6% of all the shares that are being traded on the index are belonging to HDFC. So whenever you're investing your money in an index fund, what are you basically doing? It's very important for you to know what exactly are you buying when you're buying in low cost index fund. When you're buying an index fund, what you're basically doing is you're buying stocks on the basis of the market cap. So the mutual fund manager, the index fund manager, what he basically does, suppose you put basically some, you may be like 1 lakh, right? So by taking this 1 lakh, what the mutual fund manager does is, obviously the mutual fund manager will be having all other monies as well, like all other people will also be putting their money inside it. So maybe the mutual fund manager has some 4 crores of total amount of pooled money. What he does with this 4 crore of money is that he goes and buys all the stocks how they are in the index by their market cap, right? He buys 7%. So 7% of 4 crore will be used for buying the shares of Reliance, right? 6% of shares will be used for buying the shares of HDFC, and so on and so forth. It's as simple as that. So when you're basically investing in an index fund, what are you investing in? You're investing in the growth story of India, because the index basically tracks all corporations, all the companies that produce all the companies that produce goods and services inside the country. Just think about it. What is GDP, right? GDP is nothing but gross domestic product, is nothing but it's the total amount of goods and services produced by the country. Now, who is producing these goods and services in the country? All these companies. The HDFC Bank is lending the money to these corporations. The corporations are making goods, and some companies such as TCS and Infosys are basically providing services. So all the goods and services, majority of them are being produced by the companies which are inside the index, or they are basically all the companies that are listed on the stock exchange, right? So companies that produce goods and services of the country. So basically, when you're buying an index fund, what are you buying? So when you're buying an index fund, what you're basically buying is a part of the Indian economy. I would say this is a very huge chunk of Indian economy, and you're saying that I am betting that this chunk of the Indian economy is going to do well. I'm believing that HDFC Bank is going to become even more larger in the future. Hindustan Unilever is going to sell even more products in the coming future, and even some, for example, TCS is going to provide even more services going in the future. So basically, when you're buying an index fund, you're basically buying the Indian GDP. So you are betting on the fact that the India of the future will be growing beautifully, and whatever the growth would be, you want to capture the growth, and the best way to capture the growth would be by buying an index fund. You can go to any of the leading mutual fund houses. They offer something called as index mutual funds. You can buy any one of those mutual funds. The most famous of the index funds are basically Sensex and Nifty index funds. I would mostly prefer Nifty, Sensex, and Nifty index funds, right? Index funds. You can basically buy it. And if you're somebody who is very young, who's looking for investing a large chunk of your money for your retirement or for your dreams, then you should definitely hold a large chunk of your money in the beginning in the equities in the stock market, and do not think about what stocks to buy. Basically go to HDFC index fund or ICICI Bank index fund, or maybe UTI index fund. Just buy it and just be done with it. Do your monthly investments. Don't care if the market is going up or down. Over time, what you're basically saying is, just like life, things just go up and down, but over time India is going to grow, and whatever the growth that the India shows, you're going to capture the growth with your low cost index fund. It's as simple as that, and it's one of the best working strategies. Mr. Warren Buffett told his wife that after his death, that she should invest a large chunk of her money in a low cost index fund, but not in his company, Berkshire Hathaway. Because companies can completely change. You might say, hey, what happens in the future if HDFC Bank completely goes bankrupt? Okay, some other company will join in the index. Index is dynamic, right? The 30 companies that existed inside the index in the 1982 were not the same companies that exist right now in 2022. Most of the companies have been disrupted already. Only few companies are left. That's the reason why you should not go and pick up individual stocks unless and until you have done your due diligence, right? You need to say that whatever happens, India is going to grow and the companies are going to grow with them, and I'm going to buy everything that is there in the index, which is dynamic, it changes. And overall, index funds have given a return of 12.3% over the course of 20 years on an average every year, which is quite good of a return. If you had invested the same chunk of money in an FD, you would be, for example, if you had the index started in 1967, if you had invested 100 rupees in the index, if the total amount of money would have become 320 rupees in an FD without touching it, but the same chunk of money would have actually become equal to 14,000 rupees, right? Just look at the index right now. Nifty currently is in 18,000 rupees. 18,000 rupees is the cost of one share of Nifty, right? So the best thing you could have done in 1967 was to just buy a low cost index fund at 100 rupees and do not do anything to it, do not touch it, never do anything to it. It would have automatically have grown to 18,000 rupees. The same thing if you had have put it in FD, it would have become 320 rupees. It's like, what? Really? You are literally tripling your money in an FDs. Whereas when you're investing in the Sensex in the growth story of India, you're basically like, I don't know, not quadrupling, even quintillion tripling your money. So who doesn't want it? So go ahead. If you're somebody who receives a salary every month, go and invest a considerable amount of money in the low cost index funds and look at your portfolio after 20 years and have somebody beside you so that you don't faint. That's as simple as that. So, thank you very much.